Good afternoon and welcome to Destination Wellbeing. My guest this afternoon is David Johnson, and David is from Namaste Yoga. So we are going to chat about a pretty big event that's happening this weekend, David, in aid of 2 charities, but we're also going to chat about yoga in general, and for any of our viewers or listeners out there who maybe aren't totally familiar with yoga, hopefully we'll be able to sow enough seeds and encourage enough interest that they'll give a thought to a yoga practice maybe. But just again, when we're talking about Destination Wellbeing, we're talking about health and wellbeing. We like to encourage our viewers and our listeners to just take responsibility really for their own health. If they've any major health concerns, obviously to contact their GP first off, and then see what paths open up for them from there. And I think, David, that's probably one of the things that certainly is helping yoga to a degree, is that medical professionals are embracing the yoga field a little bit more in terms of certainly mental health and well-being, and also a lot of the physical back problems and things like that. I'm increasingly hearing people saying, well, my doctor recommended that I try yoga, or I try Pilates, or I try some form of meditation and things like that. So that's bound to be
well, I think
music to your ears, really.
Yeah, well, to a certain degree, I think what has happened is maybe there's been a bit of a shift from a practice of going to our doctors and seeing them as responsible for our health, and rather than if you take the Eastern culture where people are very much have responsibility for their own health through what to do, through different methods, through Tai Chi and acupuncture and yoga.
The take of, it becomes, and I think also the approach can be a prevention's rather better than cure type approach as well.
Yeah,
and
just being proactive.
Being proactive, looking after the body that we have been given, and taking steps. It's a bit like taking a car into a garage to get it serviced. We do a prevention's better than cure thing on that level, but often for our own health and our own well-being we don't. But I do think we can generalise a lot as well. There are increasingly, I mean, I'm sure at this point you could have a yoga class in your any time of the day or night, and most there's a variety of.
In general, if there should be a class, there's probably a class every day, if not maybe 2 a day, and that's near in the district. In
the wider area. So I myself would do yoga with Sharon McCann in Silverbridge, and that's a handy class for me to get to. But like that, as I say, there's a wide variety. It just depends on people's schedules and different things and different practices, different types of yoga. I'm not so technical on those, but you could explain some of the different types maybe.
Well, there's different, there's an awful lot. There's quite a big range. You have a Ashtanga yoga, which is follows a set pattern of postures and movements through vinyasas, and that is quite a physical type of yoga. You have Iyengar yoga, which focuses a lot on alignment and using blocks and belts. You have Jivamukti yoga, which again can be slightly physical, but it's also more about maybe the spiritual aspect and the philosophy behind yoga, and there's a lot of attention paid to that. The Bhagavad Gita and Patanjali's Yoga Sutras.
So there's something really there to suit everybody. And would we be finding that in a general class there would be certain parts of those incorporated into each class, or what if somebody's just going along to a yoga class
I suppose
on a weekly basis, what could they expect from, say, one of your own classes? Or
I suppose that really depends on the teacher, because people are drawn towards different styles for particular reasons that resonate with them. In my class there could be a theme around the class. For example, maybe last night we talked about acceptance. Acceptance of who you are, of situation, of what is, acceptance of what's coming up in your body as you move through your postures. Are you actually focused and totally there, or is your mind somewhere else? And just really to notice these things and begin to educate ourselves. So the things sometimes that you learn in a class, you can apply that to your outside living.
Well, I think that anything that's worth doing is worth doing it when we can take it out of just the classroom environment, because it's like a person that goes to mass on a Sunday but never does anything Christian throughout the rest of the week. I think we can draw some parallels like that in various aspects of our lives, that we have to put into practice what the principles are, or what the teachings are, whether it's a stress management class, if we go and do 1 hour of stress management and then go about stressing all week for the rest of the week. It's not going to get the full, it'll have the benefit whilst you're in the class, and I'm sure yoga, I mean, I find that with yoga as well, is that whilst I'm in the class I get the full benefit, but it's actually when I take what I've experienced in class and practice it on a daily basis, or twice weekly basis, or whatever I'm doing at home, that I can feel the real benefit from that, and in living it, because yoga is really it's more a way of a life than just a practice. And how, in terms of practicing yoga, how long has it been part of your life and part of your experience?
I suppose roughly about 7 years. I would say when you're talking about people coming to class, they're maybe dipping their toes in it, and the word yoga itself means union. It comes from a Sanskrit word, yug, which means to yoke. And again, what you're doing as you go to class, and then as you step out of class, you're trying to live in harmony with the surroundings around you, so the people that you come into contact with, so perhaps your immediate family, and then your work colleagues, people that you meet in the street, people that you interact with, and also life itself, in nature, the choices that you make and what you eat, what you consume, stuff like that there.
So it's much more than just stretching and moving, which can be a lot of the typical.
But also in the
typical
stretching and the moving and the breathing, you become more aware of your body. You get to what happens in our Western culture. There's that many distractions with your TV, and computers, our smartphones now. We've got Facebook, Twitter. We're getting our emails to our phones. There's so much going on that our mind just becomes distracted. So it's almost like a different being away from our body. And then the yoga tries to bring those together. So we're actually slowing down. And actually slowing down gives you more time, because your head's just not as busy. Breathing through a yoga class and the postures themselves slow down the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms the brain down. So you come to a place where you're able to make better decisions and to be more focused and more clear about what you want and maybe what you need.
And where you are in life, in connection with everything around you. And it is, I noticed a number of years ago when I would have first started going to yoga, the typical person who was going to a class, for example, was generally women. I would imagine I could be generalising a wee bit here, but usually women, sort of later 40s, early 50s, that sort of age group. But I think that dynamic is changing quite rapidly now. Increasingly you're seeing people, guys who are involved in triathlons, integrating a yoga practice as part of their strength training and their mental agility as well, their whole mind thing. Is that just my observation, or is that a trend that you're seeing as well?
Well, it is part of a trend as well, but also what you touched on about the female aspect. And as a teacher, when I go to yoga workshops, you'd be lucky to see 1 or 2 male teachers in a class full of maybe 30 women. But now the classes themselves, my class, you may see sometimes it could be 50% men. And that ranges from guys in their 20s to their 40s and 50s. And again, it's all different things, whatever resonates with people. If people are like businessmen and they're finding a little bit of stress in work, well, it's good to come to a yoga class and work through the body and then have the relaxation at the end. And again, with guys in their 20s, as you said, it could be sports orientated. But what's quite surprising, sometimes people come for the physical aspect, and I know that's what attracted me initially. But as you get into the class and you see, and you come towards the end, you probably find out for the first time in your life that you're actually being relaxed. For the last 10 minutes, there's usually a relaxation. you are actually relaxed for the first time ever. And that's quite a new experience.
Yeah, it can be a new, very new experience for a lot of people, and one that can take practice as well to get used to. Even just the ability of the so that it no longer feels different and but that it feels okay to actually be relaxed.
But what you see, what you see in our Western culture now, we don't know how to stand still.
No.
We don't know how to just to be and to observe, to breathe in, to take in the experience of just being where you are, whether it's with your children, whether it's with eating food. If you go into any of the restaurants or the cafe bars, and this is something I just do in general sometimes, have a look around and see, is anybody not checking their phone?
Yeah.
Is anybody not eating their food and reading at the same time, or doing something else? But there's this sort of myth about multitasking.
Yeah.
Rather than just doing the one thing and just being in that particular place.
I caught myself yesterday, and I would like to think I'm pretty good with it, but we always get caught up in the run of it. And yesterday morning I was in the hairdresser's getting my hair done, and it was a new girl doing my hair, and a few years ago the only person you would have had to talk to was the girl that was doing your hair or blow dry. She washed and blow dried my hair. Whereas I actually find myself, oh God, I need to check that email and I need to do this, and there was Wi-Fi in the hairdresser, so that was brilliant because it meant I could get all of those things done. And I actually was sort of almost nearly finished when I realised I've hardly even spoken to this girl, and she let me do what I was doing, which was fine. I was her client, so it was obviously I had started off and I engaged in the phone and I was looking at that and doing whatever. And I actually had to physically check myself in and say, you've hardly even had a conversation with that girl. Yeah. Whereas, as I say, a few years ago, I would have had a full-scale conversation. Quite possibly by the end, it takes a brave while to dry my hair because I have very thick hair. But by the end of it, I would have known a lot about her a few years ago. Whereas, only that I consciously went, no, stop.
Yes.
I would have went through the appointment, caught up in whatever was happening in cyber world, albeit that it was important stuff that had to be done, but equally important is the communication with the people around us.
It's just the experience of having your hair cut and blow dried and sitting back and feeling that massage through your hair and stuff like that,
and enjoying that experience rather than worrying about what else was coming next and what was going to happen next.
For the time that you were there. Because soon enough you're going to step back into
the busy world again, So, and all in all, through, I suppose, if there was a reason, if you had a reason why you would suggest to somebody, or if anybody has never tried yoga before and they would like to give it a try, what would be your suggestions, or what would be your advice to the person who's looking for a yoga class, or
who's looking for a yoga class? Well, initially, just try to, I suppose, be yourself. Try not to be too competitive, because there is when you start yoga, it is amazing how much tension there is in the body.
And restriction
you've
even
built up. I would go to acupuncture, and Kieran, I think you've had him on this program.
Kieran was on
before.
A few weeks ago with us,
He said to me one day, after a few treatments, how do you expect to release 40 years of tension? And I thought, she says, he's right. We come to, we're going to book up for 6 classes and we'll be all right after that.
Yeah.
But how do you lose those 30 or 40 years of tension that you've built up through your own experiences and different things and habits that have conformed over the years and stuff that's been passed down to you through your parents or their parents. Yeah. And you've had to be this way, you've had to be that way. And stuff like that.
You'd had to be every way but the way you are is we've all these expectations on us. So just take it easy and gently.
Take it easy, go for the experience, see what happens, move through the postures as best you can, try to connect with the breathing, and that's the really big thing.
Yeah, I think
that changes everything.
The breath is the bit that we so rarely, we take so much for granted, and yet it's so essential.
Again, in our Western culture, we're fixated with shapes.
Yes.
And how we're supposed to be lean and mean and all this. But the breathing is really the core of it. And as you relax through the breath, you will become more flexible.
Yeah, because your body is getting
Less
everything
tense.
that it needs. It's less tense. There's
Yeah.
more oxygen there. And I suppose one of the other things that I would say from the holistic side of things as well would be, if you've went and you maybe haven't enjoyed the experience, or for whatever reason, be it the dynamic of the class or the connection with the teacher, because I think it's a very personal
Yes.
journey as well. If you're, when we're going into the whole holistic aspect of it, it's important that you feel comfortable in the group that you're in. It's important that you feel initially in the initial stages. Hopefully, you get to the point where you're comfortable enough in your own
Yes.
place and your own body and your own being, that really what's going on sort of around in terms of feeling conscious or being aware of that from a lack of confidence perspective won't be such a big problem. But for a lot of people starting off, they may go in and that experience mightn't be just what they would have expected. And I would always say, try and don't just dismiss something once because it hasn't necessarily worked, or if one block of 6 classes doesn't work, then don't just dismiss it and go back. Which you find again, people will say, well, that didn't work.
But again, we're coming back to our Western culture of we've got to fix it and it has to be fixed now.
Yeah.
These are gradual things that take time to work.
Yeah, and I think that's the point to remember is that it does take time, as you said. It takes time to get to where you are, but it also takes time to fix it. And culture, our Western culture, and I suppose increasingly, I mean, if we're talking about our Western culture, a lot of our technology is actually coming from it's the Eastern, not the ancient Eastern practices, but certainly the modern Eastern world that are bombarding us with a lot of the technology. But as our world becomes busier and we can get answers at the click of a button, we put on a switch and we have light, we want to know information and we search it, and everything becomes instant. But our bodies don't work as quickly as that.
They don't.
They take time.
Sure, they have evolved over thousands of years and millions of years.
So we can't expect to fix them all in just
an instant.
So given, I suppose if we summarise what we're saying there is it's give it time. Stick with it and give it time and enjoy the experience for what it is.
Well, what happens too, a lot of times people will come into a class and they may feel as if they're going to be the only ones sort of standing out or awkward, or I'm not going to be able to do these postures. But actually, in fact, I would say that's probably goes through everybody's head. And what you'll actually find as a teacher, nobody wants to come and put their mat in front of yours, which is quite strange. You'll go into a class and there'll be a bit of space around your mat, and I would often say to students, that's probably the best place to go, because you can see and actually hear everything that's going on. And the teacher will quite often ignore you there because they'll go and walk around the rest of the class.
Yeah, they're not looking under your, because even no matter when you're starting at the front of if you're standing at the front of a group, it's not necessarily the person that's directly in front of you that you can see, but if you're the person that's there, you can see everything that's going on here, because your vision will go out over, the teacher's vision's going out round the whole class.
And then you'll have students that maybe don't like to take off their socks because they don't like their toes and stuff like this. And I think that's quite common, but again, what I often say to people is trying to make the connection with the physicality of your body so you become more comfortable with it and you recognize it. And everybody has just different hang-ups about themselves. But in the whole scheme of things, they're not really important.
And feet seems to be a big one.
Yes.
I mean, as a reflexologist, I get that all the time. People that come in, and before they even get up on the bed, they're apologising. Oh, don't worry about the state of my feet. And I'm like, I'm not one bit worried. I'm looking at your feet from a whole different perspective than how attractive they are, which is what a lot of people, and so many people have that, which is always, it strikes me as a strange one. And obviously, having studied as a reflexologist, I don't have it, but I constantly meet people who I come across every day, and they've just got such a dislike and a distaste for feet. So I imagine, yes, in a yoga class it becomes, as you say, the socks don't come off because we want to cover up the bunions, or I haven't I've no nail polish on my toes this evening, or whatever it might be. And that can, but again, hopefully you hope that over a period of time that those just drift away, and you just.
And once you begin to make the connection with your feet and your body in general, I know that might seem a bit strange connection with the body. But you know, a lot of times we're living in our head.
Yeah, yeah.
Most of the time.
And if we can connect in with the body and
Yeah.
feel it, and even, I mean, we take it so much for granted until it goes wrong.
Mhm.
We don't even give it an acknowledgement. There's no better time when you'll know that you have an ear than when you have an earache.
That's
you
right,
know,
or
you don't even
infection,
notice.
yes.
A lot of the time, you won't even notice. You know, you're hearing, but you wouldn't pay
Mhm.
any attention to the fact that you actually have an ear until it starts to shout at you with an
Yes.
infection or with pain, or and feet are the same, or legs or neck or anything. We only really become aware of the body in the majority of cases when
Yeah.
when it's out of balance or it's not working.
And again,
correctly.
that's the great thing about yoga is that we talk about balance. Whereas if you're playing sports and you're right-footed, or left-footed, or right-handed, or left-handed, there can be, because of overuse of one side of the body, can be a little bit of misalignment, or
Yeah.
you step out.
Yeah.
Whereas with yoga, you're using the whole total body through some of these postures.
Yeah.
So every part of the body, right from the toes to the tip of the head, and all the muscles and fibers, ligaments, are being strengthened.
And balanced,
And aligned
brought
and
in
balanced,
and aligned in, yeah. And as you say, the majority of us, through having a dominant side,
Mhm.
do generally
what
have
brings
a
us out of
stronger
balance
side. Yeah, is
Sometimes.
yeah. And then we can go back into the whole sort of balance in the masculine and the feminine, and,
Yep, that's
and just
yes,
bringing
and left and right side of the brain as well.
yeah, and balance and everything, and trying to keep. A funny story. I do a holistic health sort of workshop course, 6-week program, and on one of the courses I was talking about things that you can do to keep the left hand side or the right hand side of your brain balanced, depending on which side you're more likely to use it. So I was saying to the girls to brush their teeth in the morning with their opposite
Yes.
hand to what they would normally use. So one of the girls was there, and she came in the next week. She's got to try that. She's, it's awkward, but it's useful, and I see things differently, and I actually pay attention when I'm brushing my teeth because I have to think about it, whereas I was just doing it automatically. So
That's right.
that was one of the week sessions. The next week I was talking about, it was about incorporating exercise into your day and how you can do different things. And one of the things I was suggesting to the group were that they squat or bend their knees even just whilst they're brushing their teeth, because they're going up and down, and they can go up and down with their knees in the same way, and
Yeah.
just notice how their body's feeling first thing in the morning, and examples like that. So on the third week, the woman came back in and she was full of laughs and giggles. She says, I have a word to pick with you. And I says, why? She says, have you ever tried brushing your teeth with your left hand and squatting at the same time? She says, I nearly put my eye out because I was going like this and up and down, and the toothbrush went flying. So it's all about using, thinking about it a wee bit as well, and not over challenging. But that idea of doing things slightly differently, be it even brushing your hair with a different, because I'm right-handed, so everything I go to do, I automatically do with my right hand. But I do try and throughout the day incorporate some things that I can do left-handed just to keep that balance in. So, and as I say, the part of that has come from my yoga experience and also through the reflexology and stuff as well. But you have a fairly big event, as we've mentioned at the start of the programme, coming up this weekend.
That's right, this Sunday,
this Sunday.
2:30 to 4:30 in Olivet House.
So it's the Sunday, the 27th,
27th,
27th. At Olivet House, and there's 2 hours of yoga.
2 hours of yoga. There's 4 teachers. There's myself, Eddie Kelly, Kieran McGorty, and Attractor Brown.
Excellent.
So I suppose that again, coming from yoga, and the meaning of the word yoga means union. So really, it was an opportunity to try and bring people that practice in the area to the one venue. And because in this country we haven't got a great sort of weather, it's better to have it inside. What I was trying to do is really to bring 108 people together in one venue.
Okay, I was
to
wondering where the
practice yoga.
108 came from.
Yeah.
So
Because I've always seen the pictures of people practicing in Times Square in New York, where everything stops and the yogis roll out their mats, and that's the energy from that number of people in the one room must be fantastic.
Yeah. I had a lovely experience a few years ago where I did Tai Chi with Kieran Kaur on the Mall in Armagh on a Tuesday and a Thursday morning for 6 weeks over the summer. And we were very lucky that we managed to avoid the rain right up until the last session on the last week. But you're saying like Times Square or practicing outdoors is a lovely experience
Yeah.
to engage with as well. But so we have to work with what we have here in Ireland.
This is Nuri's
so
version.
Nuri's version, yeah. Well, it sounds, it
Mhm.
certainly sounds like a good plan. And in terms of, is it a suitable event for beginners?
Certainly, yeah. The beauty about this event is there's 4 teachers who are all going to have different styles.
Okay.
So you'll be able to see what one teacher does opposed to the other. Obviously, we know there's going to be a fair number of beginners, so it's not going to be overly physical, but you may be challenged here or there.
Yeah, but sure, life
But
challenge is good as well.
Well, this is
We
it.
can't, you know, so often we keep ourselves in our comfort zones
Mm.
instead of stepping outside and just seeing what can be achieved
Yes.
and how the body can move and go and what it can do actually.
Yeah.
It can make a big difference. Once we step outside of that box,
Mhm.
we get a much nicer picture,
Yeah.
I think, sometimes as well, and we can challenge ourselves. So
Absolutely.
108 people hopefully practicing
108 people, Sunday afternoon, Ottlevay House.
at Levay House. And is it the full 2 hours, or is there the opportunity for
It's the opportunity
dropping in?
to drop in or out, you know, as you see fit or whatever suits. And again, yoga's about being flexible.
Yeah.
There's no hard and fast rules.
Yeah, so it's
No.
open to making it work for the individual
Yeah.
and allowing it to work for them. And it's all for 2 good causes. So we've
Mhm.
PIPS and Women's Aid are the causes there. So
Yes.
2 great local charities. And hopefully people will come out and support
Uh-huh.
that and
Well, there's
enjoy it.
been a fair good reaction at the minute for it, and we're hoping to bring along some of our students and stuff like that.
Brilliant,
So-
super. And Namaste Yoga, find on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's the place where people can go to contact David if they have any questions regarding yoga. And I would say if you have any doubts, just ask the questions,
That's
isn't
it.
it? You know, it's with anything in life, rather than assuming that we know
Mhm.
or whatever, then, you know, it can always be good just to pick up and ask the question. So finding David on Facebook will certainly, I know I follow your page on Facebook as well, and some of the
Yes, yes.
tips and different things that come through and just the information can be great as well. So, well, David, thank you very much for your time
problem.
this afternoon and for filling us in a little bit
Okay.
more about yoga. I'm sure it's a day-long conversation at
Yeah,
least.
it could easily be, couldn't
It could easily. There's so many different levels and different elements to it. As we talked about today, you have the physical aspect of it, you have the emotional aspect of
Mhm.
it, and then the spiritual aspect of
Yes,
it as
yes.
well. That can all come round, but it's about bringing everything back into balance, taking the body back into balance. And I suppose the other thing I would suggest to people is, if you haven't tried it, give it a go. And if
Yeah.
it's one of those things as well that people can sometimes slip away from and then come back to. But hopefully this will do enough to encourage people to
Mhm.
get back involved
Yep.
and do everything. Well, good luck with everything on
Okay,
Sunday.
thank
Thanks
you.
for your time.
No problem.
And thank you to our viewers for listening in this afternoon. Destination Wellbeing going out on a Tuesday and a Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and I'll be in this Thursday as well, so I'll mention it again on Thursday with Rowan on his breakfast show on Destination Uri.